people? Welcome back to Soul Mechanics. Please step into my office and have a seat immediately. This video is going to be kind of an introduction for the new course. Before I start though, I just got off second day at the new job, which is fucking terribly difficult. Like, it's really pushing me to an extreme. It's beat me to shit. The first day just leveled me. I mean, I'm tasked with picking up and carrying these, I guess they're car parts, I don't know, somebody told me they're car parts, I have no idea what they are though. They're just big, gigantic, really weighty kind of, metal things, steel things, I guess, and they weigh considerably more than I do, most of them, and B, they come straight out of the furnace, so like they're red hot, you know. And I mean, heat is my friend. Like the warmth from the sun really supercharges me. Just warmth in general, and I've done some pretty crazy shit with heat, like sticking my hand in the fucking boiling oil to fix the mechanisms in the trap for the at KFC. You know, shit like that, and I just grab things straight out of the oven, so I really have no way to gauge heat because I'm, like, impervious to it for the most part. Like, I have an exceptionally high tolerance for heat, but this shit, these pieces burned me already on several occasions. Like, I have burns all over me, so I mean, these things have got to be seriously fucking hot to actually damage me, which is slight damage and nothing to worry about, but I mean, they did hurt me, which is out of this world. Like, it's been a long time since something's burned me, but yeah, I guess they're car parts. They're enormous, and they're really weighty and difficult to carry, and like awkward, you know, to carry. Certain parts you can't touch, and then of course you can't really touch it to you because you got to wear these gloves, and you can't really touch it to you because it's gonna burn you, and it's really tough, and it's beat me up. But the first day, I picked up this piece, and I just smacked myself right there in the eye. That this black eye was actually beginning to go away finally, and I hit it again and brought it back and cracked my orbital again. So fucking dumbass, right? But anyways, that was just a brief update for that. But this is going to be an intro for the new course, which I'm calling Sidetracks, ironically, as that was decidedly Sidetracks, because the initial Enlightenment series, the 4 or 5 video Enlightenment series that I really just blew out of proportion, it was pretty much just kind of full of like tangents that, you know, I ran off on things because I was in that state where I was kind of I was in obviously I was sleep deprived. You saw, if anybody saw those videos, got really wacky, and those, the more I went on, the longer I was awake and without food or water or anything. I got pretty wacky, but I'm gonna keep them. You know, I kind of embarrassed myself, but I'm gonna keep them because it's real. You know, it's who I am. It's what I was doing, and that's part of the experiment. So I want to document the experiment on the channel here, and we had a great degree of success with it, obviously, because I've really assimilated a lot of the qualities that I was looking for, and that feminine aspect of me, the charm of it, really, and the interest. But as I said, it's going to be ironically titled Sidetracks because, for the most part, what I intend to do with it is actually touch on some of the basic and fundamental, the real vital items of inquiry that Soul Mechanics is intending to get into, and present some of the, I suppose you could say, alternative perspectives on things, because the foundation members and especially the new guy, technically, it was that guy who just came back, the friend that the Enlightenment videos were for, we very deeply invested in this, and investigated in, you know, metaphysics in general and whatnot, and spirituality for the most part, and we came up with really profound kind of perspectives on it that actually present a more of a scientific view on them, which, as the elder traditions presented the values that we're making use of that build up our initial ideology, you could say, the that is a science. It's always been a science. And I'd like to go ahead and thank the atheist community for getting me here, honestly, because it's their really kind of senseless view on the world, and especially spirituality in general, wherein anything that pops up, anything that registers to them as being of a spiritual context or a metaphysical context is, total nonsense and has no shred of reality, and that's their outlook on it. Pretty much is that it's to be laughed at and mocked and tossed off, wherein it is in fact a science, a hard science that is very provable and presentable. And that's what we're going to do with soul mechanics. We're going to present new ideas, new perspectives that show how not only is there a shred of reality to everything, almost everything that's presented. Some of the spiritual stuff is nonsense, of course. Some of it is from what we can tell, is bullshit. But for the most part, all of the basics and more profound ideas even are grounded in solid reality and can be demonstrated, like I've demonstrated with how the chakras are actually vital systems in the body. This is there's definite, immediate, solid reality to all of it, really. And we're going to touch upon these major topics of inquiry, such as karma, reincarnation, obviously enlightenment, and stuff like that, which they all have very solid, fundamental realities to them in our daily lives and in our physicality, I suppose you could say. But it's also going to get into, I mentioned, being a player in the game and getting into the game as a player with, spot casting, for example, is going to be like the top tier, and we're going to get at that. We're going to show you how spot casting works, what it is, the fundamentals and the mechanics of it, and really get into that. And hopefully anybody who sticks through this, we're going to make a player out of you. We're going to put you in play in the game. We're going to, ball's going to be in your court if you stick with this and you pay attention. But for fuck's sake, why do they keep doing that? All my fucking lighters are broken. I dick around with the flame. Anyways, so there's going to be what we used to seek out, these kind of treasures in the psyche, really, or in the spirit, and we refer to them as the three its. Like it's it, that's it, and there's three of them. And I've gone ahead and determined to establish three its for myself, from my perspective, what makes this possible and what allots for you to be a real player in the game and really kick some ass there. And I'm going to go ahead and explain those, but these three its, these three special items of investment, they're, not many people in the world, really not many people even manage to acquire one of them and make use of it. And in order to, you can acquire the values of them, but to make use of it, you have to experience certain things and really bring it to light and make use of it. Make it a part of yourself, assimilate it as a solid construct in your system. And not many people even manage to acquire one, really, let alone all three. I have yet to find anybody who's acquired all three aside from myself, really. My spotter, obviously, she had all three for sure, and nobody else really. I mean, maybe major figures in history like the Buddha or Jesus, for example. But I mean, these are for the most part mythical creatures, so to speak. So we can't really determine the reality of them. But I mean, it is a potentiality, obviously, because I've achieved it. And obviously, the position that I'm in, you might say, well, if you've achieved this great thing, then why aren't you some big shot with a bunch of money and all that? That's really a personal issue that it's my own determinations, my decisions, my investments that put me in the position I'm in, and there's reasons that I have for that that are personal to me, and maybe we'll touch on those. But um, for the most part, were I to choose to do that, yeah, it'd probably be pretty easy actually. But I want to do it the hard way. This especially, I want to build this the hard way, and the initiative, as I've stated before, the initiative is going to have trouble where it comes to like wealth and such. Let me pause this for the train. Alright, we're back. Damn thing's gone. Train bothers me. Clips into my videos. Most of the time it's going to show up when I'm speaking to something of an emergency nature. So, as I was saying, yeah, anybody involved with the initiative, essentially, there's going to be a setback insofar as concerns monetary value or material gain in general, like worldly values, are going to be exceptionally difficult to acquire. And honestly, I think it's to present that challenge because we are, I mean, the world as it stands, the way that people think, the ideologies in play, the considerations made, the structure of the system that we live in, it's kind of like an enemy to us. So, I mean, we are against it. It's going to be difficult to play into it. But I do believe it could be easily overcome with this, what I'm speaking to here. But it feels kind of like manipulative in the negative sense, like in a dark way to do that. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. For me, it's gonna probably be my addictions essentially that set me back. Which I have a few that are of detriment to me, most especially my habits. But thankfully, not really anything of a narcotic nature. We do have the anti-addiction campaign going, so I have to be a representative of that. So I'm not, obviously, I'm not going to be dicking around with drugs so much. But, anyways, the three its. The first one's going to be the Kundalini impulse. It's going to be the physiological factor, and that's what's going to give you the boost, the speed, and the energy that's required to make use of this, to make it happen, to really kick some ass. You got to be real fast, you got to be real strong, you got to be supercharged. And so activating and properly maintaining the Kundalini impulse and learning to have a stable manual control of its properties, that's going to be the first it that you're going to need to have. The second it that you're going to have equipped in your mental inventory is going to be the observer principle, which we do have for these three its. We have a kind of a treasure map, which is something a treasure map to find them and to acquire them, which it's something we've always had. The foundation has always had this. In fact, it's the precisely what got us into this and brought us so deep into it. It's just the values that are presented in this map, so to speak, this schematic, are kind of rest and lie dormant for the most part, in a manner of speaking, in your system, and they don't really consolidate and light up without having certain experiences regarding them. So we'll speak to that treasure map in a moment, but we've always had it. It's always been right in front of us. You have to use it in a certain way. But the observer principle is presented via this schematic, this map. However, in order to get a firm grasp on it, really realize it, these things, these its, you have to acquire them, you have to assimilate them, and you have to realize them, as in bring them to reality and make them real, which is what we're doing with all of this. We're taking metaphysics itself and spirituality and essentially things that are thought to be like mystical or mythical, even magical, and we're bringing them to the surface and we're making them real for you. I'm going to show you in these videos how everything that you think is some kind of a myth is actually reality. It's right in front of you. It always has been. It's something you make use of every day. All of it is real. And I'm going to show you how it's provable and presentable. But in order to actually realize that observer principle, which, as I've said before, I don't think the observer principle has actually been coined and made use of yet, but I'm doing it here because it is, in fact, a principle dynamic in reality, in the mechanics of reality, essentially, the soul mechanics. As I've stated, reality itself, all of the world and time and space and everything, even imagination, it's all one soul. There's only one soul. You're a part of it. You're not an individual entity in the sense that you probably think. You are a kind of like a puppet being made use of by this one greater soul, and that's why the initiative has to work to alter the mind of it, the psyche. It's the psyche itself. The world is your mind, and it's the matter. There's no difference. There's no matter is psyche. I'm going to show you how, the truth about that. But in order to actually realize that observer principle, you're going to want to go ahead and study up on the more recent advancements in quantum mechanics and get a handle on that, because you're really going to have that realized in your system in order to make use of this. The final it, is going to be that onlyness factor that I presented, that first person spectacle. And I'm going to try and get that across here as best I can, but essentially it's going to be, that factor in and of itself, that you want the realization that we are all one soul, that you are one with everything and always have been. It's not some far-fetched fantasy. It's not some crazy meditative practice that leads you to Samdhi or Nirvana. It is just what you are, and all you have to do is realize it. It's just a matter of realization. All of these mystical, magical things, they're real. It's just a matter of realizing them, making them real in your daily life. Now, the map I'm going to give to you right here, so that anybody who's really invested or interested can go ahead and get prepped for this particular course, and ultimately anything that I've given you in the totality of soul mechanics that you don't really understand or you think is out there. If you get this schematic in play, it's going to light up for you. You're going to realize it immediately. It's going to become obvious, really. But the schematic is going to be 3 books that we kind of use as textbooks for initiates. We always use these. We recommend them, and some people don't read them, but for the most part, the initiates usually read them, and then they're up to speed with us. They present the basics of everything that we like to teach or train or get across, and everything that we like to share, all of our theories and ideologies. It's going to be 3 books, and then the 4th is kind of a movie that's sort of like a pseudo documentary. It's a documentary spliced together with a fictional story regarding quantum mechanics, essentially, and neuroscience and the operations or the mechanics of how the brain operates. So the first one is going to be the Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield. I've mentioned that so many times before. That presents a schematic for synchronicity, how it operates and makes it real in your life. We're just reading the book. If you get into the book and you give it a chance and open your mind, the world will present it as you go along in this book. It's like an interactive adventure. Every chapter is going to present a new stage or a new phase of it, a new like gives you kind of like a new toy to play with, and the world will present it to you. The synchronicities will occur and show you each chapter for chapter what it is in your life. I promise you, just give it a shot. Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield. The second one is going to be Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. That presents a schematic for the discipline of it, and especially useful for the Kundalini impulse. That's pretty much the physiological aspect, while the book by James Redfield, The Celestine Prophecy, is kind of like the spiritual aspect. Now, the third one's going to be Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. That's the psyche, or the psychic aspect, that presents the mentality that's required. It's going to show you all sorts. That's one of my favorites. Probably my favorite book ever. There are a bunch in the series of Conversations with God. There are more after that if you want to explore further. But and it's not religious. It's not a religious book. It's about the real God. but and it'll show you what the real God is, and it's just it talks about various topics in life and in history and just in the system of reality for the most part, and shows you all kinds of new perspectives to have on it that actually we're going to make a hell of a lot more sense than the perspectives you're likely to have if you haven't read the book. But read those 3 books and then watch. You have to read the 3 books before you watch the movie, because all of the values that are presented in the books are going to really consolidate here and just come together in such a magical way that it explodes, and the values just light the fuck up, and it's brilliant. But you're not going to get as much out of watching the movie. You're not really going to get the deeper values implied through what the movie shows you without having read those books first. So the 4th one, the movie, is going to be called What the Bleep Do We Know? And it's so amazing. It's nothing I can even say about it. You just need to see it. It really fucking, it's gonna inspire you like you wouldn't believe. But those 4 things are a few notable mentions. A book I think called the Way of the Tower, something like that, by Lao Tzu. I can't remember the title of it right now, but that's a really good one. Other notable mention is going to be Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance by Robert M. Pirsig, which he's a spotter who he went through some really crazy shit, very similar to my life actually, and in fact he comes up, throughout the course of it, he comes up with a theory or a schematic for reality that is very similar to my own, with the theory, the thesis that I've presented on value and aspects, and he comes up with almost precisely the same thing, but he uses differing terms and he has slightly differing ideologies about it, but it's very similar. And it'll give you a deeper insight into what I'm presenting and what value is, essentially. He uses the term value in representation of what I call aspects, but I use value as the primary thing, whereas he uses the term quality. But it really obviously, quality, it doesn't touch it. Quality is referring to the presentation of a thing. It's not referring to the reality of a thing. So that's why I differ with him. But we really lined up. We had the same kind of an idea there. It's really cool. Anyways, another notable mention would be Kundalini by Gopi Krishna, which speaks to the nature of the Kundalini impulse, activating it, and hazards to watch out for, what can happen if it goes wrong. And he didn't get it quite as bad as me. I got it a hell of a lot worse than him, actually, but he got it pretty bad, and he tells a story of that and how he managed to handle it and get over it, and actually and now he's a really big deal insofar as that's concerned. If you look into him, he's done a lot of cool shit with it. He's really stepped up to the plate and shown us what can be done with that impulse. Although he doesn't really, it's like almost like a kind of a superpower in a sense. I don't want to go ahead and say we have superpowers, but we do have superpowers. This Kundalini impulse activates superpowers, and Gopi Krishna doesn't have the same kind of abilities as me, I don't think, but he does have some pretty cool ones. But in my case, I've learned to kind of warp time, and obviously that'll seem like something out there and impossible, and just probably I'm bullshitting you, right? But again, I'm not allowed to lie. It's protocol. So I'm actually doing it right now. Anyways, you'll learn it. I'm going to teach you that too. It's very easy. It's simple. You probably, most people are already going to know how to do it. They just never realized it as it made use of it practically. Anyways, that's going to be the schematic for it. Those 3 books, the movie, and then the notable mentions you don't really require, but they're really cool. They'll get you deeper into it and present values that'll allow for you to really make use of it. But those things, that schematic, that's really all you need. I mean, I haven't seen anything really out there in other movies or books or what have you that presents anything that's even close to that. That's really what gives you everything you need, and then making use of that, the world will provide you with the values that come into play thereafter. Everything that you require outside of that will be provided by the world if you make use of that schematic. And follow that treasure map, you'll find the three its. I've already told you what they are, so you know what you're looking for, and go ahead and do that. That's going to be the prep work for this, and it's a kind of a lot of prep work. I know it's going to take some time, but if you go for the Kundalini first and you actually learn the warp time, then you can get this done really fast, and you know, get up to speed, and we can all work together on this. It's going to be a fun course. We're going to take a deep dive into the very nature of reality and existence itself, and we're going to present some things that, you know, the places I'm going to take you here, you're going to need to be strong, because they're very, out there in the reality of existence, there's some very scary shit, some terrifying shit, things that things are going to come to light that you're really going to need to be tough to get through, but we're going to get through it together. I got your back. Anyways, thank you for watching. Keelah Salai, Taerve Uni Siari. Namaste.